Welcome, BBCers, to episode number 194 of the Broken by Concept podcast, the number one solo queue educational and motivational podcast. Curtis, today, diving into the dirt, the details with the community. Mailbag episode, we need to clear it out. We do this once in a while. Thought today would be a good opportunity to do so. Let's dive straight in, Curtis.
Yep. Can't be neglecting the community, Nathan.
No. At the end of the day, we're going to be solving some problems, maybe hearing some success stories, some inspiration for our listeners, and solving problems, Curtis. We love solving problems. That's what we do all day long.
Let's do it.
League of Legends specific problems. All right, first question here comes from Richard. The title of this email is When/How Do You Change Roles? Dear Nathan and Coach Curtis, I started watching some BBC a few months ago, and it has done wonders for my motivation and how I view the game. Rather than thinking I deserve to be a higher rank, I am now thinking, how do I improve? Which has really improved my relationship with League of Legends. I am a long-time player of about 13 years now, off and on, and for the most of it, just stuck with normals, occasionally taking time to attempt to climb gold every few seasons. About 2 years ago, I decided I wanted to take climbing seriously. I have defaulted to the ADC role because whenever I play with friends, that is what is needed. I was able to one-trick Kai'Sa into low plat 4 last season and have plateaued at Platinum 3 currently. But problem is that ADC does not suit my playstyle. I prefer to play bulkier skirmishes or engage tanks. I hate waiting for my team to press their go buttons, especially if I see a good opportunity, to the point where I force engages even though it's not my job. I am my own worst enemy when I have Kai'Sa ult or Tristana W off cooldown. I've tried playing more Swain, but my team just complains about not having an ADC when I do. I'm considering changing to top lane and maining something like Urgot or Kled or Renekton, but I worry that I'll wreck my rank since I've spent years as ADC, as my top lane mechanics and matchups probably aren't up to snuff. Should I stick it out and try to change my mindset to that of an ADC, since I've already committed so much time to it, or do I make the role change? And if I do, how long should I practice in normals, if at all? You guys see a lot of journeys, so I'd love to get your take on this. And he's linked his OPGG here.
Okay.
So still playing lots of AD carry, some Swain and stuff.
Yep. Okay. I mean, look, I'll kick it off by saying, the reality is that it's your hobby, right? And when you're spending time on your hobby, you want to have as much fun. You want to feel as satisfied as possible when you're getting on and off the computer, and you want to be selfish when it comes to your journey, and you got to do what's good for you. And ultimately, if you enjoy top lane, those sorts of champions, that's what gives you the most fun and satisfaction. That is 110% what you should do, because the reality is that, you've played the game for 13 years. I'm sure that doesn't mean you're going to quit anytime soon. You're probably going to play it for quite a long, a lot more time as well, right? So if we're thinking short term, right, what's going to be better for you short term? Yeah, sure, stick to your champion. But the reality is that this is probably not your last season of playing League. You're going to play many more. The longer you delay moving, the more miserable you're going to be. It's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. You should 100% go back to your roots, follow what your heart says, your gut feelings, and play those engages, play those brawlers, play those skirmishes.
I mean, he answered. I think you've got the answer. Writing this, I think it's like you writing this email out to us. You probably thought, wait, I'm typing this. Yeah, it probably makes sense. I probably know what Curtis and Nathan's answer is going to be.
But it's scary, right? Especially if you've never been there.
Absolutely.
You've stayed in your comfort zone of playing AD carry for such a long time. It's scary.
It's so interesting. It sort of reminds me of that whole, the topic of girls and support. They get thrown on that role because of their friend group. This guy got thrown on that role because of
no one else played it.
Yeah. It's not how it's going to work.
But I would say this extends to more than just role. I would say this is champions as well. I had a client today. He said, "There's Teddy. Teddy."
Oh,
Shendez,
yeah.
And he's at a particular rank with his Talia, right? He's a Diamond 2, like he's solid Talia.
He's Diamond
player.
2 now.
Diamond 2, right?
What a beast.
But he's only at Diamond 2 because of his Talia. So he can't, he's scared of playing other champions because he knows that when he plays other champions and adds other champions to his pool, he's inevitably going to drop, right? So he's like stuck. He's like kind of, for a lot of people, it's very scary to take that temporary short-term drop in LP to, whether it be in this case, go back to your main role, or in another case, expand your pool, because it's like, people get so attached to their rank. They take their rank very personally. So I think that there is this fear. There's fears that if I lose this LP, it's not coming back. And you got to fight that. You got to think long term. You got to think about, what sort of player do I want to be in a year from now? And that's what I asked him. I'm like, well, what's your goal, Teddy? What do you want to do? He said, ideally long term, I want to get to Challenger. I'm like, okay, what sort of Challenger player? Do you want to be an OTP, or do you want to have an expanded pool? And he said, yeah, I want to get to Challenger with I want to be a proper Challenger player with 3 to 4 champions in my pool. I'm like, okay. That's that. It's that simple. If that's what you want to do, we got to start now, and we got to expand your pool. So let's get working on. Let's get cracking. And in his case, what do you want? Richard, what sort of player do you want to be in a year from now? Do you want to be that top laner that can play Renekton and Urgot to to Platinum and Emerald, or do you want to be pissing around with your engage oriented 80 carries in team games, wishing that you just should have been playing top? The answer's there. You just got to commit, man.
Specifically for Richard, what I would want him to do is completely start a new account and just see where you get with top lane. I think that will be a full refresh for you. You won't be thinking about your rank. Like, literally just delete your mindset of that account. That's your 80 account. That's like old you. We're becoming new you. And I think that will, mindset wise, like, even though, it's going to be a bit brutal going through, I think you'll learn a lot going through level 30. You'll pick up things quickly. If you want to do it quick, you can obviously buy the boosts and that sort of stuff. And then, you might just be getting to silver as a top laner. But again, your whole mindset would be, I'm accepting this is where I'm at with top lane, versus I feel like it'd be very bad for him to start playing plat, see that drop. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be going up. You want to be going up. So it's like you're starting the journey from scratch. It's like level 30 and then climbing to, because then you'll never, it's not like you're going to be like platinum and then you don't know where your skill level's actually at if he starts playing on his platinum account.
I love it. I think it makes a lot of sense. And it's handy to have a second account anyway in the future. So yeah. I like it.
So that will be my specific advice for Richard there. All right, next question here comes from Johnny. The title of this email is, I want to play every role. Hey guys, I'm relatively new to the game. I've been playing for about four months. It says 4 months, years now.
4 months, years?
Let's say
4 months. If he says he's new, yeah?
Yeah.
Let's say 4 months.
He's been playing for 4 months. This is by far the best game I ever played. I love everything about it. I only play jungle and want to learn about every role. I think every role looks fun. Watching others play the other roles, I get jealous. If I could play all 5 roles by myself every game, I would, but I know that's not possible. So would playing Phil be feasible to continue learning the game, or am I just setting myself up for failure? So you mentioned jungle. Is you currently only play jungle? I think as a new player, playing jungle from the start is probably the worst decision you could make. You should learn how lane works, because that makes you a better jungler technically. So I would, if you enjoy everything, top, ADC, mid, support's fine.
I'll play it all. That's exactly what I did. Yeah. When I first started playing League, I played every role. I would, in normal games, play a bunch of normal games that I played. I remember I played a bit of Kayle top, a bit of Tryndamere top, then I played Hecarim jungle, Skarner jungle, then I played like Malzahar mid, and then I played Vayne 80 carry, I played Janus. I played everything because I was like, I thought everything was cool and fun. And now eventually, as you go through that process, you're eventually you're going to get an intuition about what your inherent, inclination is, like what do you prefer about the game, but ultimately you got to go through that process. I actually highly recommend going through that process of playing a bit of everything. It's
also to understand how people's kits, strengths, weaknesses, the different types and styles of champions, how they think about winning fights, specifically laning. But we eventually do need to start figuring something out.
We're not talking rank though. This is all on norms, right?
Well, he says queuing up Phil, right? You obviously have a queue.
Yeah,
because you choose the role.
The draft
in the draft. Yeah, I think starting with Phil's fine.
Yep.
But, in terms of, let's get more specific with the process. Would you want them playing literally like one champ, one game, then the next, or like 5 games, this champ, 5 games.
I wouldn't do the one game. At least what I did.
You
like,
don't know.
Yeah, you just go like I played like 15 games of Hecarim in a row.
Yeah,
and then I'll go like maybe 25 games of Tryndamere top in a row. You know, I just go through that phase. I'm like, oh, that champ looks cool. I want to play that champ, and you just play a shit ton of that champion. You know, I think that's way better.
Yeah, because when he says that, I feel like that it's sort of because otherwise, because if you play one game, you think you're probably just filling out the kit. You need to get the reps. You need to build the muscle memory a little bit with the champ, so then you actually can think a little bit more about,
agreed,
what you're actually trying to achieve with the champion, how to fight.
And this is a very fun and important part of your journey. At some stage, though, as Nathan said, you do want to kind of narrow it down, pick a role, actually, you want to pick a champ first, then pick a role based off that champ, where that champ fits.
Whatever you like, looks cool.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool, I really like Urgot top. So Urgot, and then it's like, oh, Urgot's playing the top position, so let's learn our top lane.
Yep. Pretty simple. Love it.
All right, next question here comes from Kipzo. The title of this email is Approved Champions Are Just Boring. Hello, Nathan and Curtis. Absolute massive fan of the Broken by Concept here. I believe the mindset you guys preach on the show is fuel for success in any field of life, and it's inspiring me to take League of Legends seriously in the free time that I do have. I recently jumped into the mid lane school, Curtis's below platinum program, after being a long-time ADC main and began digesting content for the different champions, but I discovered a pretty big problem I'm sure you've noticed as well. So how many champions do you have, Curtis, in your program?
It's quite a few. I think it's like
18?
Yeah, something like that. 15, 18, something like that.
All the simple and recommended champs are just insanely boring. I've been highly ranked and competitive in many other games. I even run a small YouTube channel for one right now, which consumes most of my time. But what has always motivated me in other games was to try to be like the best. Seeing a crazy outplay or some awesome flashy combo on Synapse makes me want to just jump in a game right away and lock in that champ. But because these champs are obviously complicated, I just end up feeding. Then when trying to improve, there's little to no information on these cool champs because it's assumed you already know the game before you become a Yasuo or Katarina one-trick, which is what you guys preach as well. But I just can't get motivated to play when locking in things like Malzahar, which have no real room to punish blatant mistakes my opponents make right in front of me. And anytime I see a cool champ like Talon or on the other team and they don't feed, it feels unfair that they were the same skill level as me and actually got to have fun and be cool. I've tried to learn Echo and then transition into other assassins later, but after a few days, I just don't care anymore. I don't want to be the best Echo, so what am I even working toward? It just feels pointless even with a 61% win rate. My highest rank ever is Platinum 1, almost getting into Emerald, and I can't stop listening to the podcast, but also can't figure out how to spend my time improving in a wise and satisfying way, or even pick a one trick that isn't hindering my long-term progress. I thought tons of other people probably have this exact same problem, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it. I have a quick story going back to Ishan, who's like the pinnacle Salty stream. He's one of the OGs. I think literally was like the first 10 or 20 people in the program, 4 years ago. I have a YouTube video on my channel, his journey from gold to master. What he did the exact same thing here as Kipzo. He would watch those YouTube channels and watch all the montage plays and trying to do that in his games. That's how he viewed a fun experience league. That's how he viewed the game. You make flashy plays with cool champs. And then it wasn't when he came across my content and realized just how in his mind it would have been complete shock of how boring and structured and everything. What actually gets you into a position to sort of make those structured plays completely change the way you view the game. And that's, what helped him get from gold to master tier in 1 year, playing 1-3 block a day. I'll mention that as well because that's important. I think that's a cool story there because people view of the game, like montages, like to you and me, when was the last time you watched like a montage?
I don't really watch.
I don't watch them.
I mean, like I do sometimes watch a Rail King. I actually, he's like just one of the few. I like watching a Relking montage.
I guess from a jungle perspective, montage is just not a thing. Like jungle, especially the way I view it, especially high elo, you're not really, unless you're playing champs like Kindred and that sort of stuff. It's just I would never watch a montage because that's not the jungle position in
That's
my
really
mind.
not the jungle position in general.
But I could see it as a mid laner probably a bit
certain
more.
champs, I don't mind watching montages, but I don't watch them very often personally. I think that's a really relevant story. I think there's a few things that I want to riff off here, and I want to express that I think a better way to kind of go through this question, Nathan, is just to really touch on a wide variety of ideas and why this is such a complicated thing to explain, right? So the first thing that really comes to my mind is this. I don't want to put someone down or kind of dissuade someone from thinking like this, because that's what they find fun. You know, like you think of any other craft, right? Let's say for example, you saw, you know, when you were a kid and you saw some amazing guitar solo. You saw like the guitar solo from like Eruption or whatever, and you're like, wow, like that's so cool. And that motivated you.
I want to be able to do that.
I want to be able to do that. And like that gets you excited. It's like, obviously that's not what guitar's all about. That's not like everything about guitar, but like that's kind of what you liked, or that's what got you excited about playing guitar. I think that excitement, that envision, that like kind of picture of kind of mastery at the end that you want to get to is kind of cool. And I think that as teachers or educators, it's important that we don't dampen that level of like motivation and excitement towards the game. I think that level of passion towards kind of striving for that cool part of the game it's subjective, but I also think it's healthy. I think it's natural, you know? So I think there's that, and I don't want to touch that. I don't really want to ruin that. So, okay, that's the first thing I want to put out there, yeah? The second thing is, you know, I think that everyone does enjoy the different elements of the game. I've had people in my program, and still do have people in my program that love the mechanical aspect of the game, and they have got to high ranks really emphasizing and doubling down on the mechanical aspect of the game. They want to outplay people. They play like Yasuo. They want to play Katarina. That's what they do. And now, obviously, that only gets you so far. That won't get you to the highest ranks, because you are going to have to think about the big picture of the game. But there are people that love to overemphasize that aspect of the game and play champs that I guess teach that, right? Like the Katarinas and the Yasuos, whatever. And again, there is nothing, you know, particularly wrong with that, although that will plateau out at some point. But I think, again, it's a way of playing the game, right? And again, that's subjective. So there's those two things. Then the third thing becomes, you know, I think, you know, in the MLS, I'm just going to speak for the MLS, I've tried to put in a wide variety of champions that there's something for everyone. So he mentioned Echo. I put Echo in the program because he should theoretically give you the feel of being able to play an assassin and get in there and dive. And there is a shit ton of skill cap with Echo.
Massive.
There's a lot you can do with
expression,
Echo,
yeah. Right?
Now, and I'm not to say everyone has to love Echo, but what I'm saying is that if you want to be a great maybe Yasuo player or Katarina player or whatever, Akali, whatever, Echo is there to be that stepping stone for you to teach you the underlying assassin fundamentals and the game get to a point where, you know what, I can actually learn maybe Yasuo. I'm actually capable of learning that champion. So if you're getting to Platinum 1 with an Echo, then that's fine. You can learn Yasuo. There's nothing wrong with learning Yasuo. You're Platinum, you know, you can do that. So I think that it's important to note that the MLS champions aren't the end goal. It's the bridge. It's the stepping stone that will teach you the game in a way, teach you the underlying skills that will allow you to play whatever champion you want to play without being completely and utterly overwhelmed. So I think that for him, you know, what I would recommend is stop. Yeah, you are going to have to sometimes, at least if you want to learn a game in an efficient way, you got to think long-term again. It's like, okay, well, yes, Echo's not the last stop of this journey, but it's a stop along the journey. And I know that if I really want to be an amazing, you know, I don't want to be stuck in gold or stuck in silver with Yasuo. Okay, yeah, maybe I should be better off playing Echo. I can get to Platinum. That's a streamlined journey. And then we can expand, you know? So I think that like you got to shift your mindset a little bit there. But then I would also say, I think that a lot of people's perspective on the game does change, which is, I'm assuming, what happened to Ishan, whereby you get excited initially with the idea of this amazing outplay, but then you realize what League is actually really about. And that changes your entire kind of worldview.
And then that might slot in different champions. It's like, well, now with that view of the game, actually Malzahar's super fun.
Yeah.
Because I can do small wins, scale up. There is, he mentioned you can't punish mistakes. I mean, Malzahar, I think, is great at punishing mistakes. But mistakes in our mind is different. A mistake is a bad roam through a mid laner. Awesome. Get 2 plates, I start scaling.
It's not you won't kill them.
Yeah, we don't view the game like kills is an aspect of the game, but it's not everything. And that's when I think a lot of people think about League, they just think about the fighting kills. I mean, at the end of the day, when I review every day, I'm saying we're playing Call of Duty, Fortnite, League of Legends. Like, what are we doing? Like, what do these kills get us? Let's play the game's about objectives, experience and gold, denying experience and gold. So I think it's sort of like a...
you will change. You will evolve as a player.
It's a very sort of beginner mindset when you sort of see that sort of stuff.
So this is also my other observation with this, Nathan. People lose their mind when they really understand what it takes to play a particular champion.
What do you mean by that?
Okay. So I've had many people fail the Aurelia journey. Right, because what happens?
So you're talking about your Midland Academy program,
experience, right? Let's say complex assassins,
yeah,
right? Whether it's Yasuo or Katarina or Aurelia, right? I'm just speaking for Aurelia for a second. They have this idea of a Rel King in the back of their mind. Oh my god, the owl plays what they don't understand is how long and tumultuous and painful that journey is. Nothing I say will prepare you for how difficult that journey is. Nothing. No matter how much you love that champion, no matter how strong you are mentally, people fucking break. And I've seen it time and time and time again. They say, Curtis, I'm willing to put in 1,000 games, 500 games. I'm willing to do anything.
They say, I hear you, Curtis. I hear Nathan. I have the same for Nidalee and Lee Sin.
Yeah.
The amount of failure breaking stories is unbelievable.
For every one person that makes it, there's probably 99 that give up.
Yeah, 99.
It's that rare, right?
Is, yeah.
To be a genuine OTP of one of these assassins, right? And so I have them all the time. And I had one today, literally at Zoom. He's given up with Aurelia. And he got to a pretty high level with it, but he's like, he literally, this is what he said to me. He said, I now know like what I need to do, like to get to the next level, but I'm not willing to get there. Like, it's just too much effort. I can't stay in the fight. I'm bored out of my brain now. It's too much. It's too repetitive. And I did a review this morning. He's in like Diamond, and he was initial goal was to get like, Master Plus with Aurelia. And I'm like, you just miss his E. You miss his E. You've missed 1 kill, 2
It's so
kill,
painful to hear that. It's just the reality.
Yeah, your macro is good, and you're like
70%
70% of the way there, but getting that other 30% is like fucking ginormous. Like, it's overwhelming to even contemplate how hard it is to close that gap. And so I think for this guy, a lot of these people, they have this idea of what they want to be, but they don't really understand or are willing to put in the effort to kind of be that person. It's like, I want to be a professional athlete. And then you get into it and you realize, holy fuck, do I have to really wake up that early? Do I have to train that often? Do I have to I can't go out. I can't drink alcohol. There's all these hidden sacrifices and all these things. Oh my God, I don't have job security. I can't see my family. I got to travel. There's all this other shit, that you just don't know. You don't even know what you signed up for. It's so hard. And so what I say to a lot of these people is like, you got to be completely delusional and absolutely like no question in your mind whatsoever. You're if you want to go down that journey, type thing. And so look, at the end of the day, man, if you love it that much, if that's your pure motivation, go for it. Send it. Have a crack. Make it work. But be willing, keep an open mind at some stage in your journey. Then if you get that inkling where, I don't know about this one anymore, then move on.
The quicker you probably get to that decision, the better. The moment you have that thought.
That's right.
And yeah, like your first point is you do need to be aware that when, our programs, Soul to the below Emerald Platinum, they are designed for that as educators of the game to get people to bridge into more complicated champions later on. So that's why the, approved champs may be boring. I think my champs are I had a blast playing all my champs to make the guides, right? So, but again, I love League of Legends, so maybe I'm biased.
So yeah, hopefully it gives you a little bit to think about. I don't know if we have the answer there. I don't know if we gave him the answer. We just gave him a lot of things to think about.
Yeah. All right, next one here comes from Carter. The title of this email is 4 months into the season and 300 to 400 LP down from my peak last season. Greetings, my name is Carter. I'm a 17-year-old ADC main on EU West. I've been a fan of your podcast for over a year now, and I have watched your video on Is Emerald the Real Elo Hell? It inspired me to write to you guys. I started playing in Season 10 and got to Gold in Season 11, Plat in Season 12, and was in Emerald the majority of last season. But I managed to get to Diamond by September and peaked Master 1 LP on the last few days of the season. Now, I wouldn't consider myself a Master level player, but at the beginning of the split, I was very confident that I could get back to Master in the first month and be fine. I felt that for a while. I had been stuck in Emerald for longer than I deserved, and I thought my hypothesis proved correct when I was able to progress through Diamond to Master within a matter of few months. I finished my Season 14 placements at Diamond 4 and got back to D1 within the first 2 weeks. However, I went on a pretty bad losing streak in the second week of February and went back down to Diamond 4. Admittedly, I did not play well during this time and should have known to stop. This bad streak also turned into a good lesson as I realized how important it was to take breaks and keep my mental consistent. Since my loss streak, I've been playing fairly consistently for hundreds of games, reviewing as well as I can often, and I have been putting in 2 blocks of 3 games each per day, with the exception of 1 or 2 breaks for a few days for the last 2 months. However, I just cannot get out of Diamond 4. I seriously do focus on myself. I play without chat on and mute pings of those players who are being toxic. I think gameplay has gotten way better, and I play a lot more consistently than how I was playing during the time I peaked Master at the end of the last season. I'm beginning to think that there may have been a lot of luck involved on my way there, and perhaps a lot of bad luck currently. I've been up and down Diamond 4, and probably at almost every single LP value possible in this rank. I have lost the promotion game back to D3, I think 8 times in a row at this point. At points during these last couple of months, I blame the meta, I blame the role, but I slowly came to realize that these factors wouldn't be relevant if I was just good enough to carry these games. But despite this, the gameplay level of these games and the amount of trolling, giving up, surrendering toxicity is undeniably abhorrent. I peaked way better than this, and I know that I am way better than some of what I have to play with, but I am never toxic, I never intentionally throw it, and I've been sticking to the improvement process for over a year at this point. And it already got me from Plat to Master, but now, even though I'm conditioned to the process more than ever, it simply does not seem enough. The amount of games I've lost to this behavior is disgusting, and the amount I've probably won when the enemy has had this behavior is disgusting too. For context, at the time of writing this email, my win rate is 48% with 150 wins and 163 losses. I don't want to give up as I'm very passionate to play and improve, and I do feel I'm improving at a rate where I should eventually climb back. They say that luck is when skill meets opportunity. I've stuck by that mantra and focus so much on improving my own gameplay and ignoring what my teammates do or how they behave because I know I can't change it, knowing I can only focus on myself. But I'm still waiting for that opportunity to come despite the largely improved gameplay, mentality, and consistent passion. It just appears that it is not enough to get back just yet. I really would appreciate if you guys could look at my OPGG and see what you guys think about my general level of gameplay compared to those around me. Sometimes it feels so difficult to keep going when I don't see the results and improvement convert into the rank. I want to climb back to where I peaked because I truly believe that I am capable, and I want to be in a rank that challenges me more and has higher level gameplay that I was witness to just a few months ago. I can't explain everything here. My story is quite deep. Here's his OPGG.
Let's take a look at this.
So the first initial thing, Curtis, already from this email, notice how many times he said, get back to Master, get back, get back, get back. You initially said, I don't think I actually was a Master tier player, but you have basically, I think, confirmed in this email that you think that that's where you should be. You do deserve it. It's subconscious at this point. Dropping ranks in League is, and not being like, people, peak is, I hate that word peak, like I peak rank. So what's your observation, Curtis, here of...
Okay, wait, let me just sort it by rank solo. Okay, so... Well, the first thing that you got to keep in mind is that he was definitely playing... He's kind of shifted his champ pool around in terms of priorities a little bit. I don't think it will matter too much. Like, he's prioritized Zarya a lot more this split than...
So he's an AD carry player.
Yeah. Okay, so... Look, I really think it's simple. I do. I think it's a combination of a few things, actually. I think number one, you're spot on. I think he's anchored mentally at a higher rank. He thinks that he should, even whether or not he's conscious of it, I think just with the way he's talking, he's anchored at master.
Because he's anchored, that means that suddenly all that toxicity flaming, that becomes way more apparent because now he's suddenly
You're way more aware of what's happening around you.
And you're trying to latch on to reasons why you're not at your peak.
The subconscious mind, it can be very, very powerful to try. It's like, it's subtle things in very subtle ways.
It's like when you say, go on the street and look at red cars. Like I want you to spot red cars. But if I never told you to do that, red cars look like you wouldn't even be aware of it.
Yeah.
He's really focused again on all the,
reasons why he's not climbing rather than what he needs. He's lost that curiosity that probably got him to the rank in the first place.
And that's where you lose it so quickly when you get to that rank and then you drop because your brain's just, you're not in that.
You're not in that frame of mind.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely some sort of mindset thing that you're probably not aware of that's preventing you from seeing your mistakes. And it can be very subtle. It's like there's a scenario where your wave's in a terrible position or something like went wrong, but your support messed it up. Maybe your support could have played it better. And instead of like taking maximum responsibility for that situation and ask yourself, well, why is the wave even here in the first place? You automatically will subconsciously shift blame onto either your support or maybe, but Top's getting shit on and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, it's like your brain isn't focused on how you're contributing to the game states. You'd be getting distracted, pulled to all these other things that are preventing you from really seeing how you're contributing to the games. I would also say he could have also got a little bit lucky, like you said, and he probably wasn't. If he peaked master, it's highly likely that he wasn't a master tier player. So maybe what he was is maybe he was always like a diamond 2 player, right? And just peaked a little bit towards the end, lucky streak, whatever, stars aligned, people would tilt at the end of the year, whatever. So in that sense, maybe he's only, playing 200 LP below his level of play. I'm just spitballing here. It might not be as severe as 400 LP, even though it may look like 400 LP. It could also be that, maybe if he's purely expressing his best self, maybe he is that D3, D2 player, right? That I'm just spitballing. Maybe it's hard to say without commenting on his gameplay. So then I wouldn't say it's unheard of for someone to play at a lower, they're on the bottom half of the LP range, is what I'm saying. Let's say you have that 200 LP on either side of your LP range. He's on the bottom half of the LP range right now. That could very well be the case.
Yeah, this
right?
could just be his skill of his actually currently. Yeah, playing around D4, D3, D2.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's on the bottom end.
He's on the bottom end, exactly. And look, the reality, man, and this is going to be the tough pill to swallow, you have to accept that you're a Diamond 4 player. Right? Whether you believe it or not, you are doing things that is making you a Diamond 4 player. I guarantee you, I could play on that account and I could get it to master in like 4 days, 3 days. Yep. Really simply.
Yep.
Right? And that's it's a very tough pill to swallow because, there are going to be trolls, but it all evens out, remember? Right. And this is it's so simple, but it's not. But, like the whole idea that there are a lot of trolls and shit, but you are the only consistent factor. You're going to get trolls. They're going to get trolls. You are the only consistent factor. The enemy are more likely to have trolls than your team if you aren't the troll. So you got to make up for it and you got to perform and you're not performing. So your job is this, very simple. 2 things actually. Accept that you're a Diamond 4 player. Forget that you were ever master tier, which is easier said than done. And then number 2, focus on absolutely taking max responsibility for your games and be hyper curious. Why is every death, every bad wave state, every bad reset, every major skirmish that you feel like you could have played better and pumped out more damage? You need to get into the details, man. You got to get into the details.
We have a large enough sample size at this point. You have 300 games
plateaued.
this season. You're completely where the rank system has put you exactly where you need to be.
There are things that you could be doing better. You just may not be aware of what they are yet. And that's a tough pill to swallow again.
And again, I think you could really see it coming out in the way he was typing that email.
In subtle ways, for sure. And it screams to me fake process. That's really what it is.
All right, next question here comes from Laughingman. The title of this email is Master Tier Climb Thoughts. Hello, Nathan and Curtis. Here's my OPGG. We'll link that. We'll show that later. To provide some context, I'm 35 years old and have been an avid gamer since the age of 9 or 10. My journey began with classic consoles of the Nintendo 64 and progressed through the PlayStation 1 and 2 eras, eventually leading me into the realm of PC gaming. My foray into PC gaming started with Warcraft 3, followed by StarCraft 2, where in 2012 I achieved the rank of Grandmaster playing as Protoss, a personal milestone that meant a great deal to me. Gaming has always been a significant part of my identity. I thrive on mastering skills and refining processes. My transition from StarCraft 2 to League of Legends Season 3 marked a new chapter in my gaming career. I reached gold in my debut season and was drawn to the top lane for its unique playstyle. It was here that I experimented with Tryndamere, ultimately climbed to Diamond. However, it wasn't until I joined a team that I truly pushed my limits, leading us to Challenger in Season 8. Now, I've recently reached a new peak in solo queue at 100 LP in Masters this season. I've also had the pleasure of playing alongside Curtis in 2 games, both of which we won, thankfully. I don't know what that means, thankfully. Curtis was playing he had a crack at that game, you had a crack at that game. The result is what the result is, based on your decision making. My current routine includes practicing 3 times a day, sometimes even more, as I strive to maintain and improve my skills. Initially, re-entering Masters was intimidating and fearing underperformance and the prospect of low-quality games that offer little learning value and only lead to frustration. Navigating the higher elo has been challenging, especially discerning the right moves and strategies. This uncertainty is exasperated in games where the team dynamics become emotional, which I find particularly frustrating. In Masters and above, communication tends to be more vocal, and I've aimed to use this to our advantage by preventing tilts and steering the team positively. One of my core strengths has been my resilience, maintaining composure regardless of early game setbacks outside of my control. However, in the Masters tier, I've observed a pronounced tendency among players to tilt easily and rush to conclude the game, impacting my mental state as well. The dilemma I face is whether to fully mute all communications, focusing solely on in-game pings and gameplay, or to engage in chat, responding to teammates' calls based on their mood, which seems to be a hit or miss strategy. I value your insights and appreciate the content you produce on the Broken by Concept podcast. Thank you for your time and guidance. If you guys have any questions for me, please let me know. Thank you. Laughingman, or Jared is his name. So it looks like Laughingman here is currently a Urgot top one trick.
Player.
Oh, just straight flat out a Urgot one trick.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. So let's talk about Master Plus for a second, and we'll talk. There's a few layers here we're going to talk about. Well, first things first, we got to understand that you are an OTP, which basically means that you have the luxury of having a lot of replicable situations. Like you're gonna have the luxury of getting really into the details with your matchups. You're also playing a champion that currently is played at a high level in other servers, both in NA and EU. There are Challenger Urgot OTPs, so there are plenty of people that you can study and look at how they play early matchups. Top lane is one of those roles where it is very matchup specific. So you have the luxury of seeing how the best Urgot players in the world play their matchups. And so you actually know, this is one of the things about being an OTP, the highest ranked OTP in the world on your champion is going to give you a pretty good indicator of what your champion is capable of. Now, you're lucky that you're playing an OTP champion that has shown on superior servers that people are getting Challenger and high Challenger. So thumbs up for that. So that's going to be a huge resource. If I was you, I'd be spending a lot of my time and energy studying them. What are they doing differently than me? How are they navigating matchups differently? How are they playing their waves differently? Trades. I would be going ham on that, right? So that would be kind of one whole aspect of your journey. The second aspect of your journey is that, you got to realize that climbing to Master Grandmaster is a very challenging journey, especially when it's the first time you do it. For many reasons. As you've probably realized, the egos are out of control. People tilt. People lose their minds. And so I personally, my recommendation is I would mute all and just unmute pings. That's what I do. So I'm sure many people try to talk to me, but I have my chat muted, so I don't know. I don't think chat is necessary at all. Pings are necessary though. You should have pings enabled. You should see other people's pings as well. That's really, really important.
Again, Master Plus.
Master
you're talking
Plus.
about, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a jungler, you're in gold, mute pings if you get baited by them. That's a...
We're talking Master Plus here, right? Now, the way you want to view Master Plus is that the skill set that you're going to have to develop, and this is going to be the tricky one, is understanding how to win a game of League of Legends. Now, I know from the Urgot player in, I believe, the European one, he's a massive advocate of really trying to think big picture about what is your job in the game as an Urgot. So the way he actually thinks about the game, because I've been watching a bit of Urgot content recently, he's actually very vocal about, okay, is my job a secondary carry? Do I need to build more tank because we have no front line, so I need to build, maybe not go Hull Breaker and go Sterax or whatever it is and go more, build earlier tank items so I can be there for those team fights and create space for my team. So what you'll realize as you start to get higher and higher and higher is that the game becomes more about how do I kill the nexus? How do I problem solve? So for example, let's say there is a dragon fight and you have a choice. What makes more sense in this game? Is it for me giving this dragon, getting this tower and getting this plate, or going for a tier 2, trading off for a tier 2 top or whatever it is? Or is it grouping for that dragon because we need to win through stacking dragons, because if we lose that dragon, eventually I'm actually not going to be able to win the side lane hard enough, and we're not going to win team fights later on. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to really be hyper curious about what decision makes the most sense in the grand scheme of the win condition. And this is the big skill that you develop as a Master Plus player. That is the game of League of Legends.
You got to play your champion high level and then play in the map, playing League.
Exactly.
Understanding as a jungler specifically, I always say from a master to challenger, it's no longer about what you want. It's about what 4 of your teammates and 5 of the enemy teammates
How
want.
comps interact. Exactly. And so you need to, the only way to improve this is 2 things, is all you need. You need intention with what you do, right? So you're going to go in and everything you do, whether it's every dragon, every decision, you need to play with intention. And what I mean by that is just have a hypothesis. It might be wrong. It might be delusional. It doesn't matter. Make a decision. Own your decision and go with it. Only follow someone else's call if you genuinely don't know what to do or you believe that it is the right call, okay? So that. Now, the reason that's very important is that when you get in the post-game review, and this is step number 2, you need to go to those key pivotal decisions you made, and you need to look at them from the micro-macro framework and really ask yourself big picture. Okay, well, what are the alternatives here from a macro perspective? Okay, well, I chose to give this dragon, but what would happen if I go to this dragon? How would that have changed the game? Okay, how did our comps interact? Okay, and what did I get for getting this plate? What was this tower top? What did that mean for me? And then you have to really, over time, this is where pattern recognition and getting a lot of experiences in try shit. You might play a lot for the side lane and play for your Hull Breaker and create man advantages and whatever the hell it might be. And then other times you might be, you know what, this is not working. I'm gonna try shoving and grouping a little bit more and stacking dragons and being there for those fights. You're gonna have to really try shit. And again, think big picture about the game. And it's just about testing, refining, testing, reviewing, and then over time, as you put yourself in a wide variety of situations, the intuition will build, the pattern recognition will build, your hypothesis will get higher quality, your early game consistency obviously is going to get a little bit better, and then you're going to be able to better adapt to a wide variety of compositions. That's kind of the process, really.
Great, you've laid it out there, Curtis. Yeah, I mean, your question there is about, this dilemma of communication. I mean, I think what the advice we gave you is much better in terms of your email here. I mean, your title was Master Tier Climb. Just giving the realities of the way it's going to work and just really just enjoy the journey. Like, I mean, look at it, your OPGG. This is just so exciting to me, dude. Like, you climbed gold, diamond. Last season, you were emerald 5. I mean, you're killing it at the moment, dude. Like, and remember, like, especially in OS, Master 100 LP, dude, you're in the top 500 players. So, like...
great job, man.
You've got to really start, get into the details, as Curtis said, look into the next steps. And yeah, the whole team toxic, just only focus on what you control. And Curtis just listed out beautifully how you focus on what you control and what specifically you need to work on next.
And then you'll see in the games that I play, I'm pinging well in advance. If I see Dragon coming up in 2 minutes, I'm already saying ping him back, give. Like, I'm really doing what the fuck I want. Like, what do I think about winning this game? right? And if someone tries to ping over me and say, no, I really, really want this, then okay, well then I'll have to come to that decision, I'll have to figure that out. But, a lot of the time it's about playing with as much intention as possible. And again, the last thing I'll say is that the Master Plus climb is solving 1,000 puzzles. Every macro decision is a puzzle. You're going to solve it and you get some learning and then you move on.
Yeah, think about it as, playing with intention, making decisions, taking ownership. You learn way quicker that way.
Way faster.
And then you're going to learn how to solve each of those puzzles quicker rather than just only, just thinking about, people tilting egos.
That stuff doesn't fucking matter.
It's just, it's boring. It's not gonna.
Just ignore them, really.
All right, next question here comes from Jan. The title of this email is Fixing My Account. Hello, Nathan. Hello, Curtis. I wanted to share a little success story. I usually don't play a lot of games each season, so I have decently volatile MMR. When I play, I usually do 2 to 3 weeks of 3 blocks, up a rank, and then stop again. Because I usually have win rates around 70 to 80% of the count ended up in Gold 3, but with low Emerald MMR. This season, I was win-loss for a decent amount of games around an LP cutoff, making the MMR even more volatile. I then lost a devastating 12 games in a row, not tilt queuing or anything, just 4 unlucky 3 blocks in a row while trying out new champs, completely nuking the MMR. At the worst point, it was minus 40 plus 13 games. I then dropped down to Silver 4, nearly Bronze. But this actually motivated me to finally play for a longer time and fix the account. The account is now back in gold with a 9-game win streak. What has helped the most is drop in the new champs. I simply went back to my true and tried Graves every game and was carrying every game. Anyways, just keep at it, and fixing an account is arguably the most fun thing you can do in League of Legends achievement-wise. Helped me a lot learn to just simply look past my LP and keep playing with only focus being doing my best every game. Cheers.
It's like, it reminds me of in the MMOs, there's achievements. And you do this thing and you get the title. You should get a title for fixing an account. You say you're a massive advocate of it. Nearly
Absolutely.
Every second episode you're talking about the importance of fixing an account. It is really big. It is really, really
especially
big.
for narratives around the whole, once you start detaching from the LP and realize your decision making is the reason for the LP gains and losses, then the journey becomes way more fun and just reality in terms of how the actual game works.
That is, it's funny you say that, Nathan, because it almost feels like nothing else actually matters. You know what this whole podcast is really about? If you just strip away all the crap, everything, the only thing that you need to everything we're here to talk about is getting people to get to that final realization that their rank is determined by the decisions they make.
Yeah.
Just think about that.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
That's really what the podcast is about.
Yeah. People say, I see some comments and people write to us and stuff saying, I like the positive vibes of the podcast.
Right.
I don't view being positive.
No.
We're trying to, it's reality. We're trying to give people, this is the reality. It's not, but it's funny how people equate that to being positive because you have all the other side, but we're just demonstrating how the game works.
It's at some point, this is the way we're viewing it. It's if we just keep trying to chop up the message in a trillion different ways and give you a trillion different toolkits, at some point, one of them is going to click with you.
That's right.
And you're gonna wake up one day and be like, oh my God. And you're going to look at a game one day and you're like, oh my God, I would have blamed my teammates this game, but I made this decision. Holy shit. This game was actually just because of my decisions. And then that's going to open, it's going to just shock you. And you're just going to be like, what the fuck?
And realizing that, the game's one decision at a time. And it's really that simple.
It really, that is what we're trying to get to. It's just hard to get to that point. It's just so much narrative, so much stuff that you got to chip through.
The complexity of the game, the patch changes, everything.
It's
brutal.
much distractions.
Yeah.
But that's really what the game of League of Legends is, as hard as it is to wrap your head around. A bit of a tangent point, but I got some feedback from our last episode, actually, the Emerald episode. I found fascinating. He said this. He said, when you're playing in the lower elo brackets, we're talking silver and gold, bronze, right? Even gold. When you learn particular skills and concepts, he says they directly correlate to LP in a way such that they're additive, Okay. So for example, you have one concept plus another concept and you join them together and you're going to get LP because everyone's playing so poorly. Like just the basic changes can matter a lot. Like simply not dying to a gank. You're going to go up in rank.
The 20%ers.
20%ers, right? They're additive. What he said about Emerald, he said they're multiplicative. I don't know how to even say the word. Multiplicative. And they're multiplying. So they're not adding.
I see.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you need to. It's not necessarily. It's like it scales.
So if you let's say it's like if you screw up something, it's a 0, but you learn something 1 times 0 is still 0.
Yeah. That's my point. And so you need to have many things learnt in order to get a change in your value.
I see, because you need it to be like 1 times 2 times 1, but if it could be 1 times 2 times 0 is still 0.
Yeah, that's exactly.
They don't get anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's multiplying.
But
rather than editing.
if it was 1, 2, and 0, you still gain 3.
Still gain.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so that's why you want to think about skills in Emerald and above, is that you need multiple things to be learnt in order to actually get the change in your LP. And I thought that was such a really intuitive, really actual, makes sense. That's actually a great way to understand it. Just a little side note there. Thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I like that's a really cool way. I mean, we sort of have said that a lot in the podcast when we talk about climbing, Emerald plus Diamond. It's all about the 1%ers. You get the details and everything, every little thing. The snowball nature of the game is important. I actually wanted to call this email out a bit, Curtis, because Jan said here only took a 9-game win streak to fix the account. That's not my view of fixing an account. Fixing an account takes weeks, months. I would say would have Jan stuck to it if he didn't get that 9-game win streak. If it took 30, 40 games, that's not actually sort of like it's an easy sort of fix account. We're not actually getting many sample size games in. So did we really?
The account was maybe never broken.
Yeah, that's right. We the account just fixed itself pretty quick anyway, because maybe just realized, oh wait, this player's still actually a gold player, just a bit of an unlucky win streak type thing. So I think this is not actually a true fixing account process for my vision of fixing account process.
So what is a true fixing of account process?
Just something like you're literally on negative LP gains for at least 50, 30, 40, 50 games.
Right.
Or or literally 17, just really bad LP games for a long period of time.
It's like months. Are you talking months?
Yeah, weeks, months.
Weeks
depends how
months.
much months. Yeah. Brutal. Because that's when you're tested. That's when your narratives are really tested. This one, cool. Thanks for writing in, Jam, but I'm going to sort of push it back here. It's like sample size. It was pretty easy here, All right, moving on here. We've got Filli. The title of this email is Stacking Narratives from Situations. Good day, Nathan and Curtis. You can call me Filli, and I'm a player from Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia server. And I've been watching the podcast for quite some time that I already lost track when I started watching. I really like the positive vibes and understanding of process when it comes to climbing, and I've been applying it to some parts of my life too, namely my product development journey as I'm a food technologist intern. Again, for my last point, I genuinely do not think this podcast was positive vibes, which is reality, guys. It's funny how they say that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Look, it's positive in the sense that we're choosing not to go down. We're choosing not to just go with whatever the general consensus is with League, right? Like we're like trying to fight the negative because it's not negative.
It's not negative. It's just incorrect.
No, but like it's positive in the sense that it's not negative. Okay. So I guess it's neutral, but it feels positive because it's not negative.
I don't view what people are saying about the LP and also is negative. It's just
delusional,
just misunderstanding.
Misunderstanding, right?
That's what it is. It's not negative or positive.
Right. Interesting. So you would say this. So rather than using the word positive, you think that the podcast is actually more so just realistic.
Yes.
And educational. Pragmatic. Right.
But, positive, cool. Positive vibes sound cool to me. So
positive, mate.
We'll take it. All right. There has been ups and downs along this journey, like stage 4 problems, and I do my best to rectify the issues, but it has been getting worse recently. I know one of the earliest narratives I had was with Aurelia. I'm an Aurelia one trick. That's so funny. Did not remember this email being about
We
this.
did not plan this.
And I generally want to play and climb with her for several reasons, such as being good at micro-intensive champions, give me the most satisfaction. But some of her matchups, especially top lane, are just unpleasant, but that's okay. As long as I play to learn and remind myself that playing Aurelia is basically the worst thing I can do to my journey due to her difficulty. I've been through weird problems in my climb, such as negative LP gains, even though my win rate is positive, and many more. I can still manage my tilts, but recently my new problems stacked with the old ones. It's now getting annoying. Some background story. I stopped playing ranked on my skill level at around Season 9 when I had to go to the army, and queue times were annoying due to me being in Diamond, plus back in the day. Fast forward to several years later, learning / trying to control my narratives and taking your advice, along with many top lane videos and learnings. I'm now Emerald 3, player on a new account. I'll play my original account soon, but the queue times in this server is just insane that is starting to affect my mental more than anything else, not counting severe real life problems. For the past few days, it literally takes 25 to 30 minutes to find a game, and that's not even counting whether I get autofilled or not. It's just so unbearable, and my time is limited on the weekdays due to me having Muay Thai and work commitments. And I have been reducing my Muay Thai training just to barely fit the 15 game mark that you guys recommended. I know I've been rambling, but I don't have a toolkit to deal with this as of typing this email. I found a game after 25 minutes just to get autofilled. I dodged, and now it's been an hour. I've had many mental baggages such as stage 4 problems, Aurelia problems where I make one mistake and I just get outclassed in terms of champions, and I'm doing what I can to make sure that I deal with this accordingly, but these problems along with insane queue times is becoming a bit much. I really want to climb and improve, but if my queue times in Emerald is this ridiculous, I don't know what will happen if I reach Diamond and above. I'm at a loss as I want to improve, but at the same time, this is such a hurdle that makes me want to quit. I know games are faster if I play on the weekends, but sometimes if I'm losing streak or if I have mental narrative or if it's not my day, I wouldn't play more than one block if I feel off just to compensate. I'm all ears for advice. If this is useful, this is my OPGG.
Far out, man. That server must be dead.
Yeah, so this is Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. I don't know much about it.
Is that because they all play on...
other servers?
Yeah, they all play on other servers, don't they? Wow. That's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's not fun to... I mean, we have experienced that, Curtis, obviously.
Yeah, but again, we have experienced that, but... I feel like we're not great people to compare with because, I mean, this is our career, right?
Yeah.
This is what we do for a living. So, you know, there's no choice. So it is what it is. So I'll be honest. Look, I don't know if there's a solution, man. Like, okay, let's take, is this the account here?
Sorry, the other one. It was the Haka one, I think.
One.
Is that right? Yeah, okay. So here's the Aurelia. So we have 200 games played this season, 55% win rate. Aurelia, 100, yeah, basically Aurelia one trick flat out.
I mean, I honestly, I don't know how your server situation is. I would try to find a different server. I don't know, even if it was a higher ping, straight up. Like I know that a lot of people around that region have swapped servers, and there's servers around that area. I don't know if there's any other options for you, but I think that you should seriously try and figure out a solution there, because my 2 cents, if there was no other solution, I would move on. As in, like, I wouldn't play League. Like, straight up. If I'm an average gamer and I want to play and it's going to be 25 minutes to play, you can't play the game.
Yeah.
You cannot play the game.
You could do it. I mean, we do it. We've improved, like, you know, as Master again, and there is people on our server that do it, but I mean,
it's not sustainable.
It's really brutal.
It's really
brutal. Yeah.
It's just such a time sink. It's just not worth it, dude. Like, I honestly if you can't find another server, I would move on. I genuinely wouldn't play the game. And that's sad to say, because it's a passion. You obviously enjoy it and whatever, but I'm not, I would be lying if I said suck it up, because I wouldn't do it.
No, it's brutal.
It just wouldn't be worth it. Yeah. And so find a different server. If you can't, find another game. And I'm sure there are many other games that you could, you know, scratch your itch with. But as sad as that is to say, and would love for you to stick around here, it's just not worth it, man.
That's the way rank system works in game, right? Like, you need players your skill level to be matched against. The beauty about League of Legends, we don't have to worry about that for most servers, because their player base is ginormous. Interesting problem, isn't it? This is the first time everyone's written in like this.
I do know that a lot. I think like some of this, like for example, Japan and stuff, they're small because a lot of them play on Korea.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Or
China. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know, man. That would be my 2 cents. I'm sorry if that's not going to answer the question properly, but that's my no bullshit response.
All right. Moving on here. We've got... this one's from Collie. Hey, Nathan and Curtis. So the title of this email is, I became a better player and it made me worse. I was D5, D4 hardstuck mid for many, many years of mindlessly slaving away on the Rift. But recently I took a big step back to reflect and had an almost spiritual awakening. I have to thank you guys a lot for the huge influence on that. I wouldn't really say we're spiritual awake, that's not really our thing, Curtis. But if that's what you want to call it, a spiritual awakening, that's cool. That's cool. I was consuming a ton of educational content, mainly this podcast, Shock LS, and a few chance-specific ones, including Curtis's, for many, many hours before, but something clicked and it was as if I had never fully understood what I was hearing before. I don't know what triggered this, but it was as if I was seeing the game for the first time. In a sense, this became a huge problem. Suddenly, I was doing mistakes with every click. Suddenly, I was not doing a million things at once, and now I'm absolutely overwhelmed. How can I space, trade, last hit, watch the minimap, handle the wave, look at what my jungle wants to do, be aware of the enemy jungler, have a game plan, mind objectives, build correctly, not get caught, and infinitely more things at once in every single moment? I now feel this pressure constantly and get completely crushed by it. It is as if I had to climb a glass wall when the only available training course is that same glass wall. I know I would recommend a strategy to just focus on one thing for a decent time, but I feel that would be a disservice to my team and I will drop out of the learning zone too fast. Example, I have to learn how to lane versus 200 LP Syndra, but because I'm only focusing on that and nothing else, I instantly drop to D2 and can no longer spar against that Syndra. TLDR, where do I start?
Okay.
I feel like it's probably not as extreme as he makes it out. If he's a diamond player, he's got a lot of skills, right?
It's just, look, very, very simply, just simplifying the crap out of it. League is a game of habits and muscle memory. These are all things you develop, but you never do anything all at the one time. It's that, so the way you want to view it, right? Imagine you, okay, so let's take when you first started playing League, let's say it took 3 seconds for you to realize which minion was getting targeted. Okay? Which one was dying first? It took you 3 seconds. As you play more and more and more, that drops to 2 seconds. It drops to 1 second, drops to half a second, to 0.2 of a second, 0.1 of a second, to the point where it's such a small thing, your brain is able to process and look at that information so quickly. It's just like taking up such a tiny, tiny part of bandwidth in your mind. Now, the goal, or what happens in League, is that happens for everything. You don't have to think about how to last hit because it should be intuition. You shouldn't have to think about the enemy's champion's range because you should know it off by heart. You shouldn't have to think about their cooldowns because you can feel it. You don't have to think about when you're getting ganked all the time because you should know when you're not going to get ganked at 140, you're not going to get ganked at 210. You can maybe get ganked at 230, but we ward for that. And then if you bypass that gank, you're probably not going to get ganked for a while. There's habits and things and patterns that we learn and we work off of. So if you feel as though you're getting overwhelmed by everything, that means that you're not trusting your intuition and your habits, or you haven't built them in the first place. So what you said here is that how can I play well when I got to do all this stuff at the same time? Well, for starters, I'm saying that, a lot of these skills should be already just pushed into your mental stack and just made habits. The second thing is you don't think at everything at any one time. It's all about prioritization, right? So the way you want to view it is that you can only really have maybe one or two things in the forefront of your mind at any one time. So if I'm versing a high threat jungler, then I'll think if I'm versing a Shaco, it's like, okay, that's going to be at the top of my mental stack, especially if I'm in any sort of gankable state. So then when my wave's now on my side, I don't have to think about Shaco anymore because I'm not going to die to a gank. Or I'm full HP. I don't need to think about when I'm going to get a reset because I've just spent my gold and I'm on full HP. So it's all about prioritization of things that are happening in the moment. You're a jungler. You're not thinking about Baron at 3 minutes. You're not thinking about Dragon at 2 minutes.
You're thinking about your build ideally in champ select already, or the loading screen, or in that, in some lull states.
You only prioritize what you need to focus on directly in that moment. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to think about Syndra's ultimate at level 3. That's my point. I'm obviously over-exaggerating the point, but you got to learn to prioritize information. If you're getting overwhelmed, that's a sign that you even haven't got any habits to build or to, intuition to work from in the first place, or you don't know how to prioritize the information. That's it. So it's all about prioritization. What do I really need to, what's the next thing that I need to do? And I would say, if you feel like you're overwhelmed like this, stop thinking. Literally just play. And go, if you're worried about tarnishing a rank because you've had some spiritual awakening and you feel like you're a different person, go into flex queue, go on a second account, or just go out there and play and lose. You can get the LP back. If it's not gone forever, league's not going anywhere, and just play. And I think really just let your mind, muscle, energy, and just do shit. Don't think sometimes.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that this email's very over-dramatized. I don't know if it's, again, this idea of the spiritual awakening or being like, okay, if you're Diamond 4, you have a lot of skills. You probably do know how to prioritize a lot of these things. You're a human being, dude. We're learning machines. We can learn, Think about process, think about long-term. Don't be worried about drop-in. I think what's happened is that you've just realized, just from watching a lot of content, wow, there's a lot I don't know, which is great. It's humbling. And then now just start, all right, cool. That it is what it is. Now I realize that I probably wasn't maybe as good as I thought I was, and just attack and just learn.
I think what a lot of people think is that they think that they need to focus on something in game to improve at a skill. That's not true. You don't. You could learn a lot in the post game. So let's say, for example, you weren't playing around Syndra's E well. Well, let's say you die because you just don't respect the Syndra's E. You don't need to work on that in-game. That could be after the game. You can go in the review, look at that moment you got hit by Syndra's E and be like, oh, okay, that's how Syndra's E works. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, you look at it from Syndra's perspective and like, oh, yeah, okay. Boom, you learn. Move on. Let the learning happen. It will happen. It's there. But you might not be able to connect with it straight away, but it's there. I promise you that. And just let it happen. Learning can be done in the post-game. So I think that let your intuition, let your muscle memory express itself. Right, let your kind of habits just go with the flow, and let the learning happen in the post game. Don't overthink it.
Go with the flow.
Go with the flow, man.
I like it. Let's relax a little bit. Maybe that's a separate spiritual awakening we need. Let's just
I do, but I do think that is there. It's so funny, that you kind of mentioned it like that, because I think that there are definitely players that don't think at all and need to think more and need to just switch on their brain for a second. But then there are players that are the opposite, where they overthink everything and they just need to calm down and sometimes not engage in that level of thought and just let your mind take over the game. So there's kind of two different types of players there, really.
There is, yeah. So it sounds like he was a player that never thought.
And then realized.
And that can get you pretty far, especially if you have a sort of gaming background. You're just purely on intuition. But yeah, I think that you're over-dramaticizing a lot.
I think you're spot on, though. What happened is he just realized, holy shit, how much I don't know about the game, and it's kind of overwhelmed him in a way. That's fine. It's fun. Take your time, man. League's not going anywhere.
Humbling experience. I will do one more question here. This one is from GamerTide. The title of this email is Recent Realization and Question. Hello, Nathan Curtis. Before I get to the main part of this email, I would like to describe a bit of my gaming background just in case it might help answer my question. I've always liked video games, but was always restricted to iPad and phone games until about 2.5 years ago when I first downloaded League on my family's computer. At first, I only wanted to play it because it was the only game the esports club had at the time. Even with the experience I have and all the different games I play now, League is one of, if not my favorite online games ever. And since the beginning of my ranked journey at the start of this year, I'm already progressing steadily out of silver. I've only ever listened to your podcast, but since the one I just listened to had an issue I was dealing with, following my team into bad plays, I had my main in it, Jin. I wanted to check the video to see if there was anything more that I could learn from it. And even though the camera focus was on the jungle, this is from my Emerald episode, the Jin that flamed the Kha'Zix, it started raging in that,
right?
The jungle clip that I had,
yeah.
Jin 8
but I didn't remember the Jin. But
remember everyone Emerald, no one was calling.
Yeah, no one was calling. It was a red light. Like the Ari should have called it off. The Kha'Zix should have called it off.
That's right. So I wanted to check the video to see if there was anything more that I could learn from it. And even though the camera focus was on the jungler Kha'Zix, I could already tell that the issue was me not reading the map and getting way too laser focused on the fight itself and not thinking about why the fight is happening. Because of this realization, just from watching a small clip with you guys, a question that I've had in my back of my mind for a while became even more apparent. Even though I'm climbing well through the lower elo, is coaching a thing I should be getting later once I'm struggling, or should I get it now? I've been holding off on seeking coaching because I thought it wouldn't be as helpful if I'm not struggling too much. But now I'm curious. I would love to know your thoughts on this and hope you guys have a good time in your ranked climb. He's linked his OPGG here. 61% win rate, 100 games around, and we are, Jin, literally basically a Jin 1 trick right now. Does he need coaching, Curtis? Should he get it now or when he starts struggling?
I don't think I would recommend coaching.
Yeah.
I don't think you need it, man. I think just keep chipping away. You seems like you're doing the right thing. You know, I think I just don't think it's necessary. I think if anything, it could even overcomplicate your journey at the moment. What you're doing is obviously working, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I would say keep chipping away, keep getting those games in. You're killing it at the moment. Now, when you start to plateau, you know, try and overcome that plateau maybe yourself. If you can't get through that plateau, maybe that's where you would want to invest in some coaching. But I think for now, I think no need, man. You're on the right track.
Yeah, I guess the way I think about it is that let's try and find out where you are. You know, maybe an extra 50, 100 games might be a good indication. I mean, I think there's no harm. If there's a Jin Mains Discord or Reddit and stuff, ask them. I'm sure people will always look to help, you know, for free. I mean, if you had spare money, I think there's no harm in getting an ADC, or you think that literally, you think it could harm their journey, Curtis?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I think that if you were able to get your hands on a good quality AD carry coach, I don't think it might not be bad. But okay, so like, I'll say my main concern is this, right? Very simply. And this is going to sound very egotistical. I've just seen so many bad coaches, man. Yeah. Like nightmare fuel.
That's like, your distrust in the system.
My distrust in the coaching industry is insanely high. Yeah. Now, there are a lot of amazing coaches out there. I just don't know who they are, right? And the reason I say this is because I've had clients that have come to me, and the shit that I've heard is unbelievable. Like, it just genuinely makes me feel sick that someone's paid money to hear this shit, right?
Specifically from my perspective, is more so like, the player might be challenged, the player might be, but it's the problem is that they don't know how to teach newer players. They don't know how to
teach the game.
Yeah, from this perspective.
There's a very, very big difference between someone being good at the game and someone being able to teach the game. And that's a tough pill to swallow. And again, and it's just, and the reason this is the case in this industry, more so than a lot of other industries, is because of the way people can get good. Right? In a lot of other, let's just take, for example, you might take a traditional sport, right? To be at the top of your game in a traditional sport, whether it's, let's take soccer, right? You get coached. You don't just randomly one day you just picked up from somewhere and then play a bunch of soccer in your local club and then go to the English Premier League. That's not the way it works. That person probably highly likely started getting coaching, was in team environments under coach's supervision from a young age, from maybe 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old. They've seen how they taught the game. They know drills. They literally learnt the game of soccer or football from the ground up. So even though they are not a coach, if they were to help their son or daughter or a friend, they would probably be able to give them very solid drills and tips and things that they did when they were younger trying to improve at the game.
Or the things that coaches did that said to them, they're like, oh, that worked for me. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
But there are so many high-level players that never have got coaching, have never even thought of the game in an incredibly like deep, nuanced way, and they've kind of just developed a metric ton of muscle memory, are very good at the game, but can't really explain what they don't even know what they're doing. As crazy as that may sound, that is the case.
Yeah, that's what we realized when we moved from the pro scene. We were so disconnected about what skills we had, what we knew, and about the game. And translating that took years for us.
It's unbelievable how many things you do. So I think that if you knew that the 80 carry coach had gotten results with lower elo clients and he was really trusted in the community, and you have people that can vouch for that, and you've seen maybe their coaching online and really you kind of resonate with it, it makes sense, you feel like they're very thoughtful and intentional, then sure. But my hesitation with this, if he's doing the right thing, the risk is higher.
That's the problem.
That's the problem for me. It's like the risk is too high.
Yeah.
It's not that coaching from a good coach wouldn't be useful, but it's like the risk is finding a good coach.
You just want him to. It's actually the safer option. Just keep on his path and see where he plateaus. Then we can maybe.
Because there runs a real risk where he gets a coach and they fuck him up completely and just instill him with narratives. Like I'm going to tell a horror story. I've got a guy right now who joined my pro mate. He was in the MLS and I was in the MLA, and there was I think I sent you this quote. It was something along the lines of like, what you're doing. Don't worry, you're making the right decision. He's losing. He was losing in like silver. And the coach is saying, don't worry, you're doing the right thing. These people just don't know what they're doing. And so what's happening is that this high-level coach is viewing silver games like a challenger game. And so they're not... What this guy... He was so disconnected from the way those games played out. He was just pumping him with false information, saying that you're doing the right thing, even though he's losing. Saying, no, don't worry, you're doing the right thing. But no, you're not, because you're losing.
You're definitely not doing the right thing.
You're not doing the right thing because you're losing.
Yeah.
Right? And so what it is like this elitist kind of mentality where it's like, these people should adapt to the proper way of playing the game rather than adapting to the chaotic nature of the game and owning the way these silver or gold games play out naturally. Right? So yeah, sure, in Diamond, or in Master or Challenger or Grandmaster, yeah, this is objectively incorrect and you wouldn't win like this. But you got to adapt. Winning in Silver is different to winning in Challenger. It's not even the fucking same game.
It's a different game.
It's a different fucking game. Right? And so your job as a teacher should be like, okay, what's going to get me results for this guy and teach him the game? Like, you want to do both. You got to get him results and you got to teach him the game. You can't just teach him some Challenger way of playing the game. That's not the way it works. And it's just hurts. This guy pissed away all his money, and they get nothing. They get worse. That's it. It's not that they don't go anywhere. They just get worse. And they pump themselves in the arrow. They think they're better than they are. So that's my problem.
That makes sense. I would agree with you, Curtis. It's a safer option. Let's figure out where you are, then access.
Yes. Because then if you're plateaued anyway and you're not going anywhere, then the worst case scenario, it's like you get a bad coach and it's like, well, I was plateaued anyway. Fuck it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Let's keep chipping away. All right. Well, that's it for our mailbag today then, Curtis. We'll do these every once in a while.
Yep. When
the mailbag starts to get full, I'm always taking a look at the size of it.
Yep. It's out of control
we did get a good chunk, but, we get a lot of emails. Like, if I was to actually say, if you were to send an email, we probably respond to probably a quarter of them.
Right.
25%.
Yeah. We're chipping away at them.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
So you have about a 25% chance of it getting
25% hit rate.
Yeah. So that's, I think, just letting people. I think it's okay. It's not like this is like 5% or 10%.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for this episode. Then, good work, everyone. Let's keep on improving, reviewing, process 3 blocks. We'll see you guys next week.